Hello everyone, I'm Aga and I'm Cloud Development Engineer at Pega. So before we start, few words about me. So I mostly work with AWS and Kubernetes and I hate on-calls. I truly cannot rest on them, especially on the weekends, like they're definitely not for me. And I like to destroy things, not always on purpose. So probably many of you experienced chaos, so let's talk how to tame it. But before we start, how many of you are familiar with chaos theory or chaos engineering? Okay, that's pretty many of you. And did you have any chance to use it in real life scenarios? Or I know you did, so that's great. Okay, so we need to more know about chaos. And my personal definition of chaos is my cat. Truffle. He is running around the apartment at 3 a.m., sneezing into people's ears and doing a lot of different stuff. He is truly unpredictable. And so is chaos, which is a state of total confusion and lack of order. As human beings, we crave certainty, and to tame chaos, we decided to do some research. Pioneer in that field was Edward Lorenz, who was actually an American meteorologist who wanted to predict some things related to climate change. So he did the simulation, put the variables into the computer, and let it do its work. Then he went to grab some coffee. When he returned, he was astonished. At the beginning, he thought that computer was broken. But then he realized that it worked with numbers rounded to 6 decimals, whereas Lorentz used numbers rounded to 3 decimals. Yes, so even a fraction of a fraction can make a huge difference. In 1972, he organized a conference to present his work and findings. On the very same conference, he introduced the widely known effect, the butterfly effect. So effect simply states that if there is butterfly somewhere, let's say in Texas, and it flaps its wings, then it will cause a tornado somewhere else, let's say in Brazil. So, fun fact. Originally, Lorentz wanted to call this effect the seagull effect, but to make it more poetic and romantic, he stuck with a butterfly. So, tiny changes can have a massive impact in the long term. That's not hypothetical. That's the law. And that's the chaos theory, which is study of apparently random and unpredictable behavior in system governed by deterministic law. But why are we talking about chaos theory in chaos engineering? Because distributed systems used in IT are complex ones, which implies they're chaotic. Because changing operating conditions in one system can affect conditions in others. And it's not only the technical side, but also people's side. So imagine that you are on the great conference on Thursday. You met so many people, then after you grab a beer. On Friday, you go back to work, you do some changes, push code to the production. And many things can happen, right? That's why we have chaos engineering, which is a discipline of experimenting on distributed system to build confidence in the system's capability to withstand turbulent conditions in production. And right now, switching from monolith to microservices could lead to more bugs in production, as we are moving from well-known problems to completely new ones. As we try to meet customers' demands, we introduce new changes which could generate more bugs. The more critical a system is, the more crucial it is to fully understand it. And right now, let's go back to the history. So, chaos engineering is quite a new thing. In 2008, Netflix was quite a young company at the time, suffered from extremely known and pretty tough outage. They were down for 3 days. That was the moment they decided we want to go to the cloud. We want to use AWS. And they started the transition by changing people's mentality and creating a simple tool called Chaos Monkey. So what this tool was doing, you can think of it as you have a monkey, you give it a gun, and you put it into the server room. And then monkey starts randomly killing your servers. And that's exactly what this tool was doing, and it was very successful. That's why they created more tools like that, eventually creating Chaos Gorilla and Netflix Simian Army, which was a tool to test resiliency, reliability, and security of its Amazon Web Services infrastructure. And they put those tools on GitHub around 2011. In 2014, first person was hired to the role called Chaos Engineer at Netflix. In 2016, people who worked at the Netflix at the same time that Chaos Engineering was born decided to create a new company, a new tool called Gremlin, which is also called Failure as a Service. And 2 years later, they organized the first conference and presented some things there. Over the time, more and more companies started to introduce chaos engineering into their systems, looking at the great success of Netflix. So let's now discuss its principles, so you will know how to apply it. About building hypotheses around the steady-state behavior, we'll talk a little bit later. So overall, using chaos engineering and chaos principles, you want to be as close to the real world as possible. So as close to the production environment as possible. But let's face reality. If you start your test on production, you will most probably fail. So start with a test or even development environment and slowly move those tests to production. And automate those experiments. Think of them as some kind of deployment process, some quality gate that your code is verified against. Run it as a part of a process. Start slowly, be agile. You don't want your system to explode. And before implementing chaos engineering in your system, you need to ask yourselves few questions about the service. So is it ready for the real world? This means that most of the bugs are fixed and there's workaround for remaining ones, and system overall is working steadily. If this is the case for you, then you need to check if you have monitoring in the steady state. Why? To check what resources are consumed under the typical load and do some conclusions. By that, you can describe a system by a set of parameters like CPU usage, memory usage, latency, pod availability, and by that conclude if your system is healthy or not. If monitoring is in place and people working on the system are confident in its resiliency, then it's a high time to start your chaos experiments on the system. And there are many ways to conduct those experiments, but this template was actually prepared by Target company, and they are also running their experiments, but I wanted to show you what are parameters you may use to conduct the experiment. So first you need to decide on which system you will do that, then choose the attack type, which can be like CPU, network, memory. And here they decided to do it on the network, adding 100 milliseconds to each system response. Then duration of the attack, it can be anywhere from few seconds, few hours, even few days. The scope of attack defines if it's entire cluster, single instance, several instances, same region, different region, is it on cloud, on premises. The environment. So as we talked before, it's the best to start on the test environment, on development environment, and slowly move those tests to production. So Target did. And load of data is type of data loss. Like it can be artificial, synthetic, or actual user data. Here we are hitting the system with 20,000 queries per second. You can also decide if there is a moment that you want to stop your experiment, if something happens, like for example, if system is no longer healthy or if the business operations are disrupted. Then it is important to have something that will allow you measure the system responsiveness. This is a prerequisite for that. So you can either use like Grafana, New Relic, or some other custom solution of your choice, but this is a must-have to perform chaos engineering. Then you create a hypothesis, like it defines the impacts and the failures that are possible within this experiment. And here we are testing alerts, if it will validate client dependencies. Then the results are simply outcome of the experiments and checking if the hypothesis failed or not. And action items are as important as the results because they state some kind of the follow-up task that you need to digest in, for example, fixing telemetry, rerunning the chaos engineering experiment, or some other things. And it's also worth to create some item in your backlog, just not to forget about it. And knowing the parameters, there are over 50 tools to perform your chaos engineering experiments. And of course, they are designed to proactively test system by introducing some interruptions and failures. But I wanted to put here 5 of them, which are Chaos Monkey, Gremlin, Litmus, Chaos, Simurg, and SteadyBit. And I evaluated them by the set of parameters, those 6 parameters, but I will only talk about one sentence about each of them because you would need to dig in a lot of more to get to know that. So Chaos Monkey works well for companies that use Simurg and want pretty simple way to test their instances, like focusing on the individual ones. And then Gremlin provides a wide variety of attack simulation and strong platform, making it great for businesses that want detailed insights into their failure testing. Litmus Chaos, on the other hand, is perfect for Kubernetes setups, providing a community-driven tool with a large collection of experiments. Simurg is flexible, can be easily customized, ideal for companies which use script-based approaches. And SteadyBit offers detailed control over the experiments with little or no impact on production. And now, how do you think? How often should you run those chaos engineering experiments? Just give me some numbers. All the time. That's interesting. Any others? Once a month. Okay. So actually, you are not all wrong. It is recommended to run it at least once per quarter, especially if your system is outperforming service level objectives and exceeding goals set against service level agreements. But running it like more often, it's also like even better. And here is the Gremlin report, and actually part of it, which states the relationship between frequency of running the experiment and availability of the services. And according to that, teams that perform attacks more regularly have higher availability of the products. And even, as you can see, ad hoc attacks can improve your availability a lot. And now, knowing all that, you're ready to start, but let me give you some tips where to actually start because you may get confused. So there are 3 main areas that you can focus on to start your chaos engineering the smartest way. First, look at your outage history. As Carl Sagan said, you have to know the past to understand the presence, and find the common patterns that are often causing failures, and for each one, ask yourselves, could this be understood, hence prevented, with failure injection? And you can verify that hypothesis by performing some mini chaos experiment and see what happens. Then tackle the most common patterns that are causing the largest blast radius according to the statistics. And then figure out your critical dependencies. Identifying and mapping those dependencies is called dependency mapping and is actually done in the huge code bases, but you can also prepare a single graph. And not all dependencies are the same. They are divided into the critical and non-critical ones. With critical, we are almost 100% sure that if it fails, it will have a huge impact on our system. With non-critical, at least we believe that there will be no impact. So you can start by enumerating your API, identifying the most expensive ones, but you can take a more radical approach. Turn off each machine one by one and see what happens. Become a chaos monkey here. And probably you won't be able to do it on the production due to some safety measure against the brute force attack, But do it in the test environment and see what happens. It's journey that matters the most. And look out for the overconfidence effect. And this effect is tricky and pretty dangerous, especially for the teams that are working a lot of time in the one technology or spend a lot of time fixing bugs. Because you need to be aware of overconfidence operator, because someone in your team may come and say, nothing happened in like, 2-3 years, we are definitely safe. And then in the least expected moment, failure will come and say, I'm ready, hold my beer. So now, with all that theory, you are ready to go to prod. I just wanted to warn you off about some common traps that people tend to fall in. So the first one is the success of chaos engineering is measurable by the quantity of vulnerabilities it reveals. And if you are implementing chaos engineering in your company, you may find yourself in the situation where leadership is pushing counting vulnerabilities as some kind of a metric that you have to achieve. In this situation, we risk making statistics error, which can lead to us believe that system is working completely different from reality. What we should focus on is what we learned from the system, what we are good at, not about finding vulnerabilities and pointing out system risks. Understanding how things could go wrong is what could lead us to understanding how things go right is what leads us to understanding how things could go wrong. Only selected members of the service team need to be engaged in the experiment and preparation tasks. And this is reasonable. It's time-saving if you choose, let's say, 3 out of 8 engineers working to work and perform the experiments. But let me give you an example of Apollo 1 launch experiment. So the launch was supposed to be the first one with the astronauts on board. It was scheduled for February of 1967. Sadly, mission never took place. During the rehearsal time, the fire was found in the command module and killed all 3 crew members. Why are we talking about it here? Since the rocket was unfueled, test was believed to be safe, so no emergency precautions were taken. So no medical, no rescue, no fire team were present or alerted during the experiment. And I think it's a kinda drastic example, but think what things may happen if you do that with your systems, with your service owning teams. Trap number 3. The primary focus of chaos engineering is on performing the experiment. And actually, all 3 phases are equally important. So before, during, and after experiment. Even before running the experiment, you can spot some issues. And after, it's also important to fix those things, to run it, fix telemetry. And trap number 4. There's a fixed formula for implementing chaos engineering. So when dealing with chaos, we have some useful guidelines and scientific methods that are worth looking for. My only hope here is that you will not focus on looking for one universal solution for all your problems. Rather, focus on the approach and look for the things that work for you and are tailored for your system. And now, inspired, you want to start chaos in your company. But probably first, leadership must approve on that, right? And not to throw you out of the window. So how can you convince them? There are 3 obvious benefits apart from your personal growth and knowing system insides out. It's resiliency, reputation, and money. With resiliency, in the perfect world, on-calls should not exist. But it may happen that you are waken up during the night and you receive the call says that system broke and it cannot heal itself. Even if it happens, you should sleep well during the night and read email in the morning that something happened, but system fixed itself. And none of you would like to do that, like hop on that meeting with a client, explaining why this system failed, how to fix it, and when it will be fixed. And here's actually an example of outage in 2021. where many AWS-based services stopped working. And like completely extreme example for me was that there is a company called Roomba, and they are doing those robotic vacuum cleaners. And even those were not able to clean your house. Were you affected by that outage or any others? No? Okay. That's pretty interesting. And with those outages, your reputation might come in place. Because when it happens once or twice, customers will probably tolerate it and it will be fine. But when it happens chronically, they may stop using your services and give you a bad review. And nowadays, people can be pretty cruel with their reviews, so readers reading it may resign from using your services. And money. Of course, you lose money when people stop using your services, but also the downtime can be pretty costly. Because 1 hour of downtime for over 80% of the companies varies from $300,000 to even $5 million and over. And I wanted to give you 2 downtime loss example and make you a guess. So Apple in 2015 lost $25 million during 12 hours of downtime. And now, how do you think? How much did Delta Airline lose during 5 hours of downtime a year later?
More. More than.
That's for sure. But I need some numbers to show you. Like, I know you think something right now, but just say it out loud. Okay, that's too much. They lost $150 million. But please remember, breaking things is not the end goal. Identifying vulnerabilities and understanding your system is the goal. Chaos engineering is not there to make you look bad or demonstrate how broken your system is or to pile more work at you. No, think of it rather as a partner who will help you improve experience and provide better experience for your customers. This is a subtle mindset shift that will improve the relationship both with the customers and the service owning teams. So choose your pill and follow. Thank you.